Hello, Dreamcatchers, and welcome to the Writer's Haven. I am your host, Helena, and today in our studio we have author Brooke C. Obie. Brooke is the recipient of the 2017 Phillis Wheatley Book Award for First Fiction for her debut novel, Book of ADDIS, Cradled Embers. Her work has appeared in Ebony, the Los Angeles Review of Books, Marie Claire, and other publications. She has an MFA in creative writing and a law degree from Mercer University. Here to discuss her passion, process, and projects is author Brooke Obie. Welcome to the Writer's Haven, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you here. As I mentioned to you when we were first talking about your appearance here today, you are our second author slash lawyer, not practicing, but you have a law degree, so you have that law training. So let's start with that. Okay. One of the questions that I asked Lauren, who I know you're friends with, is how easy is it to transition that analytical thinking into creative writing?
So what was actually great about my legal education at Mercer University was that I focused on legal writing. I got into their writing program there, and that's what actually reignited my passion for writing that kind of had lied dormant while I was focused on academic work and academic writing. And so getting into that legal writing and making a convincing argument and structuring a story, because that's basically what you're doing when you're writing a brief or you're trying to talk to a judge and trying to get them on your side. You're telling a story. And so getting that structure down, I've used that to write this novel and just outlining as well. All the outlining that we learned there, it's been invaluable as I've been switching over into fiction writing. So it's I loved so much going to Mercer University for law school, and that legal thinking, that analytical thinking, and the research that experience that I got there as well has been just unmatched as far as being able to transition into fiction writing kind of seamlessly.
So what came first, the JD or the MFA?
The JD came first.
Okay.
I very much wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be actually the first Black female Supreme Court justice. That's what I wanted to do.
Love it.
And then I got really disillusioned after going to law school with the legal field and basically just systems in general. I went into politics after that, political writing, and that wasn't fulfilling me either. And then I just thought, what if I could create a better world, a different world, and by writing it down and then being able to share that with other people, then this world that I've created, other people can be invited into as well and bring that into reality. And that just seems so much more appealing to me. So that's why I transitioned from the legal field and then political field into fiction writing.
Okay, so one is more technical than the other, being creative. So in terms of your process and how you engaged in this book, tell us how you, first of all, what was the genesis for the idea, and then how did you go about the process of creating it?
Sure. What I found really interesting was that back, I think it was 2008, 2009, everyone was really into like dystopian fiction. That just became just a really big thing, and I just thought it was so interesting that what everybody else feared as this dystopia had already actually happened to Black people during slavery. And so I just wanted to remind people of that. We've kind of already been here. The worst things that you can imagine have already happened to Black people in America. And so for me, if I wanted to create a world where the Black community was able to heal from that in a way that we haven't in real life, I knew that I had to go back to the root of that and kind of examine how we got to this point, and kind of undo some of those threads, like just pull it back and see if we can start over and restart the country actually in a different way, in order to have this future that I imagined.
Okay, so in speaking about your process, did you start by outlining? Did you start with character development? How did you approach it?
Well, first I had ADDIS. Book of ADDIS is all about this 17-year-old enslaved girl who was enslaved to the first president of America and escapes from him and starts this revolution. Mm-hmm. That's the crux of what the entire series is going to be about, but definitely the first book. Mm-hmm. And so I had this woman, this young girl. And that was I wanted her to be this figure that was really powerful, who had experienced so many things that my ancestors had experienced. So I put in different things that had happened to people in my family. I made her an Igbo girl because I believed at the time that we were descendants of Igbo enslaved people who mm-hmm. were known to be very rebellious. There was enslavers who wrote records to each other about the fact that Igbo slaves could not be contained in the same way that other people, like they were just more rebellious. Mm-hmm. And they were basically being warned. Other enslavers were being warned about Igbo slaves. So I made ADDIS an Igbo girl. Mm-hmm. And also Oni Judge, who was a real life woman. She was enslaved to the first president, George Washington, okay. and she escaped from him. And he pursued her relentlessly until 2 weeks before he died. He was still pursuing her. And she was able to remain free. She outlived him. She lived into very late in her life. I think it was her 70s that she was able to mm-hmm. live as a free woman. And so that was very inspiring to me as well. So I took all of these real life events that happened that I wish that I had been taught when I was in school, mm-hmm. that I had to basically stumble upon when I was studying and researching to create this character. I took all these stories and created this composite character of ADDIS who could represent all of these things in the book.
So the characters started to talk to you
yes.
first.
Yes.
And then the story structure came after that. But in between, or maybe even before the character development, you did the research and you learned more about these people, which kind of defined even more the characters?
Absolutely, and the language as well. So that's something that's really unique about Book of ADDIS is that it's written in Black vernacular. Mm-hmm. It's an 18th century Black diasporic vernacular.
I love that about the book.
Thank you so much. No, it was so much fun to write, but that was it was really important for me mm-hmm. that the book be written in the third person in Black vernacular because in a novel, the narrator is basically the god of the universe right. in your book. They're explaining everything that's happening. You can trust them. And for me, in order to tell the story of enslaved people, the God of the universe had to be someone who could speak this language, who was on the side of the people. And so that's why I chose to use the language in that way. And so basically when I was in my MFA program at the New School, I studied writing in the vernacular. And it was something that when I first was writing the book, I kind of relegated the vernacular to just dialogue between characters. Mm-hmm. And it was not good. It was not well done because I kind of had an embarrassment around it. I kind of had a shame around just speaking in the vernacular because that's kind of the way I've been socialized in school. You know, you speak proper English, and anything that's not basically a standard English is going to be improper. It's going to be, ghetto or just things that are considered to be very negative. Yeah. And I wanted to really reclaim that because there have been so many great Black writers, Zora Neale Hurston, Langston Hughes, Paul Laurence Dunbar, so many people who have chosen to write in Black vernacular because they understand the power and the poetry and the beauty of the way that we speak, and even just how revolutionary it is that this language that was forced upon us, no matter where we were dropped off on the boat, right. In the Caribbean as well, in Latin America, we've taken this language of the colonizers that they put upon us, and we've broken it down and we've made it our own, and we've made it something that still has the rhythm and the spirit of Africa in it that just connects us all over the world. And so that was just something really great for me to rediscover while I was in school reading these books and and being reminded of the things that my parents taught me about Black vernacular and how amazing it is and how amazing we are for still being here, for still surviving. So I wanted to honor that in the book, and I wanted the narrator and the characters all to be speaking that language as a unifying language.
Well, you were very successful in definitely bringing that message out, and it's very, very much appreciated. It's a beautiful book of body of work.
Thank you.
So when you started on the journey of writing this book, did you know at that time that this was going to be a series, or when did that light bulb go off?
Well, when I was doing my research and I was just finding out about so many amazing people and characters, real life people in history who had just done such amazing things that I had never been taught, I wanted to put them all in the book. And I was just like, there's no way I can tell the story that I want to tell in just one book. You know, this is going to have to take some time. And also what I wanted to do was to kind of deconstruct some events in history and rewrite them, and that was going to take some time as well. That wasn't something I felt like should be rushed through. So that's how I got the idea when I was outlining everything and all the stories that I wanted to tell, that it had to be a 3-book series. So I was really excited to get that outline together and get all of my all the characters, all the plot points, and basically just make this a story of healing and redemption for the country. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's why I knew it was going to take some time, and I thought I would just be okay with that. Take the time that it needs, and don't try to cram it all in one book. Take people on a journey that'll last a little while.
There are a number of well-known authors that, after their contracts are up, their name is out there, and so people are buying books because it's being written by them, not necessarily who published them, and so they are venturing out and they are self-publishing, and they are standing up their own publishing houses, and that's very encouraging. And at the same time, you're going to start to see more and more how the publishing world is going to change as a result of that. And then with the different ways of distributing your work, it's not necessarily the hard copy now, bound copy. There's so many different ways, and with the new generation of readers, they're doing the ebooks, they're doing the Kindles, and it's very easy to now go to Amazon or one of these other distributors and download it. So it's opened doors for self-published authors even more. So let's talk about that self-published journey. So when you had the idea for the book, and you started thinking about marketing, it sounds like you may have ventured a little bit out to see if there were any agents that might be interested in it.
Oh, I definitely did the traditional route. I had an agent and was pitched for about a year to the major publishing houses and some smaller ones as well. And so, we did the traditional route, and that didn't work out. And so that's why I ended up self-publishing the book. So then to go on and be able to win awards that my colleagues in writing have won. My inspirations, Tiffany Yannick, won the Phillis Wheatley the year before I did. So, and she was one of my instructors at the new school.
Oh, okay.
So that was just really an incredible honor. It's been a very very interesting journey. But I'm glad to have been encouraged to go around the gatekeepers. And to make my own way. And that's something that I love to share with other people when they come to my book talks, people who are interested in writing, people who are afraid that maybe they won't be able to get the success maybe that they're looking for in the traditional route, that if you have a story to tell your story and to not be discouraged by anybody's no, and to say yes to yourself. And do whatever it is that you have to do to get your story out into the world, because if you want to read it, somebody else is going to want to read it too, and so you just need to, it's about going out and connecting with the people who want what you have to say, who want to hear it and who need to hear it. So that's why I always encourage people to just keep going and to not take no for an answer when you have a passion that's been stirred up. That you need to share it. That's what that passion is telling you. You need to share this with the world. So just do it.
That's right. So what are some of the challenges that you faced in self-publishing?
Challenges that I faced in self-publishing, thankfully, through Ingram Spark and through Amazon, I can sell in bookstores. So when I was out on the road, doing my book tour, the issue became, well, if it's print on demand, well, some bookstores don't want to buy your book because they're not going to be able to return it. And so that's kind of a big thing with bookstores. They want to, if they can't sell the book, they want to be able to return it. And so through Ingram Spark, once I found out about that took a little while. It took a couple of no's from bookstores to figure out I need to get with Ingram Spark, and then I was able to allow bookstores to return the books. And so that made it so much easier for bookstores to easily, buy the books, and then I would get in there and do my book talk and try and sell them out. So they wouldn't have to worry about returning anything, but just being able to have that option. So some like business, things like that you may not know. Yeah, there is. It's you're doing mostly everything. It's not just the enjoyment of creating this world and getting lost in the writing. It's the marketing of the book and getting out and going on tour and setting up your own tour and meeting with people and all of that kind of stuff. That can be a lot more challenging when you're an independent author. But which is why it's so great to have the awards from Phillis Wheatley Book Awards and from the Black Caucus of the American Library Association Literary Awards, because of those seals that I get to now put on my book. That kind of lends a legitimacy, and so people start to listen. People pay attention a little bit more, but it's still definitely it's a very elitist industry. It just is. There are, you have your big 5 publishing houses, and those authors are always just going to be treated in a different way than everyone else. And then self-published authors are just at the bottom of the barrel because there really is no process for examining the book and examining the book's worth. They feel like if it's gone through the gatekeepers and the gatekeepers have let this out, then it must be excellent, which isn't always the case. And it's definitely not the case that self-published books aren't. And self-published books, aren't books that have been well vetted either. Because again, my book was edited several times, and I went and got my MFA and all of that, did my research. So There really is no way to just look at a book and tell whether or not it is going to be, of the quality that you're expecting. But that having it be self-published, it's just always going to be a little bit more of a challenge. And that's the great thing, though, I think about me, is that I've kind of always been a little bit of an underdog. So that's just exciting for me, and it just makes me even more proud of what I've been able to achieve. And the college and universities that have invited me out. I've spoken everywhere from Oxford to Hampton University, my alma mater. So, that's just, it's exciting to me. It's exciting to me to be able to do all that I've done with the support of just my parents and then fans that have read the book. It's been a very interesting, exciting journey, and I'm sitting here with you now today too. So it's been great.
So let's talk about your projects. And so this one is in the can.
Yes.
And you've already revealed that this is a 3-book series.
Yes.
So let's talk about the projects from that standpoint in terms of how you're approaching, let's say how you're approaching the second book. Have you finished writing it, or are you still in the midst?
I'm still in the middle of writing the second book, but I'm very excited about it.
Okay.
I've got some great things. So
did you outline like the entire series?
I did. I outlined, the plot points that I wanted to happen in the 3 books. But the thing about characters is once you create them, they kind of have a life of their own.
Yes.
And they kind of tell you who they are and what they want to do. And so, those kinds of things are bound to change. And, so I'm always open to having those things, having plot points and all of that kind of stuff change, because they're just less important than who these characters are and how they're resonating with people. And so the second book is Book of ADDIS, Burning Plains, and I'm really excited about it. I'm almost done, but I'm off to a really, really great start on that too. And I'm just thinking, and then of course I've got the third book that I will write after that. But I'm always just thinking about different ways to get this story out to the audience. So I've also been working on, I finished a pilot episode for a series, a TV series for Book of ADDIS as well. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And then also I will be speaking at the Austin African American Book Festival on June 23rd. I'll be on 3 panels, and one I'll just be talking about my book with one of the moderators there, and I'll have a signing afterwards, and then I'll be on a panel about Black Panther as well following that.
Okay.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, that sounds like some really great projects that you have on the horizon. Now, one thing that you mentioned in terms of having the plot points for the 3 books, did you find that as you completed the first book and you're starting on the second, that some of those plot points may have changed a bit?
Of course, yes. I mean, it's very hard to write a sequel in general, and I don't want to put out a sequel if it's not going to be better than the first book. And so I knew what the feedback that I got from the first book was once they got into the prologue, which is so action-packed, that it was just a breeze. I mean, people read it, in one day. And so I'm like, okay, so that means I need to have something just as juicy, just as exciting to happen in the beginning of the second book. And I had written maybe about 150 pages of the second book before this great beginning came to me. So I'm really excited. Just finished that beginning too. So now I'm going to go back and work it back into the 150 pages that I already have on that. So yeah, I know that.
Are you going to shop that one?
We'll see. But I think what's important
because now you have a following.
Oh yeah,
you've won the award.
Yeah,
so you're on the radar.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming that. Well, I'm pretty sure that the second book and the third book will be in the same vein as the first.
Yes.
But maybe with Zora Neale Hurston's book coming out, maybe that will change the color of how publishers start to see that type of writing?
I hope it does. It really should. It really should. And I think, yes, this book, Barracuda, is a New York Times #1 bestseller because it's Zora Neale Hurston, but also because people are not ashamed of these kinds of stories. People are not afraid of these kinds of stories. And I hope that sends a very loud message to the industry that we want to talk about slavery. We cannot deal with what's happening in 2018 in America without dealing with our past. We've never fully reckoned with that. We've never fully healed from that. And so these kinds of stories, especially speculative fiction stories that give people an opportunity to heal from that, to work through that, to find some solutions for how we can be different in 2018, are important. And I hope that the industry is paying attention to that.
Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give to aspiring authors that are in various places in their writing journey, who are listening to this broadcast or the podcast and just hearing your journey? What advice would you, or words of wisdom, would you want to impart to them?
I would just say write as often as you can, to be fierce about your writing time. If that means, cutting some activities off or some people off or, just some Netflix time, like whatever it is, be very, very fierce in protecting your writing time, your writing space.
Were you very regimented in yours?
So that was the great thing about my MFA program. I had to get it done because otherwise I've wasted 2 years of life. And if I didn't graduate with a draft, then, what was the point of me taking 2 years off of work to do it? So for me, I turned in the draft of Book of ADDIS as my thesis statement. Then that's how I was able to graduate. So yeah, it was, I didn't have much of a choice. And that's how I need to work, honestly. I need to have a thesis advisor. I need to have my writing group. I need to have people who are accountable, or who I can be accountable to, who are expecting me to get stuff done. And so that's how I was able to do that. And then now, I have all these readers who are asking me, when's the second book coming out? I'm ready. Like that keeps me accountable. So that's, I need those I need to be very regimented in that. But there are times as well when I just don't know what to say. Like I said, I was having trouble trying to find something, as great as the beginning of Book of ADDIS for the second book. And it didn't come to me for a very long time. And, it comes when it comes.
Right.
And so just being patient with yourself and going out and experiencing the world. It was just through reading books like Barracoon, books, like I have a list on my website of all the books that I read that helped me in my research and definitely made Book of ADDIS stronger.
Tell us that website.
Yeah, so it's bookofaddis.com.
Okay.
Or you can go to bookofaddissyllabus.com, which will take you directly to the syllabus.
Okay.
So yeah, and I have all of the books, the museums I visited, videos, movies I watched, the music I listened to. All of that is right there at bookofaddissyllabus.com.
So is listening to music part of your process?
Oh, yeah.
Writing?
So that's the thing. Like writing in Black vernacular, it's very poetic. And so there was a bunch of music that I listened to. Fela Kuti, there's a song called Yemaya that it was kind of the background music, and it just gave me this like beat, and so I was able to write and go along with this flow. It sounded like the ocean. So when ADDIS is having her visions of being in the ocean, I'm listening to that song, and it's giving me, the bass line that I need to write out that poetry. And so, it's a very musical book anyway. There are actually songs that I wrote that are in the book that, ADDIS sings and while she's working, and that the enslaved people sing while they're having a funeral, and all those kinds of things. And so,
that are all very much a part of, how we live, and how we breathe, and how we communicate with each other and with the people around us.
Yeah, there's a musicality to it. So I was all about music when I was. Even I brought it a little bit more contemporary and listened to Nina Simone through a lot too. There's so much that inspired the writing of this book.
So it sounds like your website is a great resource for
absolutely.
aspiring writers.
Yes,
and so definitely give us the website again.
It's bookofaddis.com.
Bookofaddis.com. Well, Dreamcatchers, I hope you enjoyed our discussion with award-winning author Brooke Obie. You can continue to follow her writer's journey at Brooke Obie on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and she just gave you her website. Next week in the Haven, you will meet a new author on the scene that is making a big splash with her debut novel about her. You don't want to miss my chat with author Stephanie Simon. Also, don't forget, you can follow us at Writers Haven Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also tune in to YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Sonos, Alexa, SoundCloud, and Spotify to stream our past shows and subscribe so you'll never miss one. So I hope you enjoyed it, and you will see Brooke's show in about 4 weeks from today. And don't forget to visit us and visit her website. And until then, until next time in the Haven, catch fire on purpose.
Mine was to see the ocean.